Jury selection is underway for a teacher in Anne Arundel County accused of sexually abusing some of his students at Severna Park Elementary School. Fox 45 Keith Daniels tells us what one observer believes would make the right juror for both sides.
Standing trial in Annapolis. Matthew Schlegel, a former teacher in Anne Arundel County, accused of child sex abuse. His alleged victims, 8 of his third-grade students at Severna Park Elementary School. His trial beginning with jury selection. Jury selection started Monday morning from a pool of 119 prospective jurors for a trial that's expected to last for about a month. Questioning of the potential jurors in what's called the voir dire process ended at 5 p.m. with only 42 of the individuals questioned, with no one selected for the panel. The jury pool having to return Tuesday for day 2 of the process. A process, according to one observer, that could be a lengthy ordeal. Warren Brown.
You can only judge a juror on the questions that they've answered.
A prominent Baltimore defense attorney with no affiliation to this case says the process for this trial could be tedious, notably for the defense.
You could be charged with murder, you could be charged with rape, you could be charged with burglary, carjacking, but when it comes to child abuse and then child sex abuse, it is really difficult to get that group of people who are going to be open-minded, not persuaded by the charge itself.
The 45-year-old defendant faces 55 charges, including sex abuse of a minor and second-degree assault. According to charging documents, Schlegel is accused of inappropriately touching students at school, in and outside the classroom. Prosecutors say the incidents happened between August 2022 and March 2024. At jury selection, what Brown believes would make the right juror in this case for the defense and prosecution.
For the defense, a good juror is somebody who's going to have an open mind, not prejudge, not be overly persuaded by the charge itself. It's an ugly charge. For the prosecution, they will never admit it, but they want just the opposite. They want jurors that are going to be easily persuaded.
In Annapolis, Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
Developing right now in Anne Arundel County, elementary school students are taking the stand in a criminal case against their former math teacher. Thank you for staying with us. I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. Matthew Schlegel, who taught at Severna Park Elementary for more than a decade, faces nearly 30 charges in connection to a series of sexual assault allegations that he denies.
Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor was in court all day. She joins us live from Annapolis with the latest. Rebecca.
Mary and Kai, originally 8 alleged victims were attached to this case yesterday. 3 of them dropping out due to concerns for their mental health and well-being. Now, because this is a criminal case, the remaining children will be required to testify, subjecting these young students to intense questioning.
Service dogs trained to comfort and support, present inside an Annapolis courtroom today. Despite objections, the dogs would elicit sympathy from the jury, a circuit court judge allowing them to be hidden under the witness stand as a group of elementary school students testified to the disturbing acts they say their former math teacher hid under his desk. Prior to his arrest in May of last year, Matthew Schlegel, accused of sexually assaulting students for nearly 2 years inside of Severna Park Elementary. According to investigators, the alleged abuse taking place behind an L-shaped desk tucked in the corner of his classroom. The first witness to take the stand, a 10-year-old girl now in 4th grade. Testifying while Schlegel sat at one side of the desk, she would often stand at the other. She wanted to be close for additional help with her schoolwork. Instead, she claims Schlegel began touching her inappropriately under her shorts and shirt. Today, defense attorneys declining to comment after questioning the girl for nearly 4 hours, at points causing her to appear confused and overwhelmed. When asked to clarify when the touching occurred, the girl saying it was either every day or every other day. That's why I keep saying a different answer every time. Later, a classmate testifying the girl consistently worked behind Schlegel's desk. Although no abuse was witnessed, the classmate claiming nothing could be seen from the waist down. The defense asking, he didn't sit behind the desk all day, did he? Most of the time, when I was in math class, he did, the child responded.
I taught with Matthew.
Paula Hendry says prior to Schlegel's 16 years in Severna Park, she worked with him for about 7 years at Tyler Heights Elementary.
I'm 69 years old. I taught school for 41 years. Matthew Schlegel is one of the finest teachers I ever worked with. As a human being, he's one of the finest human beings I've ever known. And these charges are just outlandish.
Schlegel's defense arguing the case is based in emotions, not fact. They say a group of misguided parents have manipulated their children to conspire against Schlegel. But so far, any possible motive remains unknown.
Can you speak to maybe why the
No,
parents...
I'm done. That's all I want to say.
Later today, the first witness's mother took the stand. She was brought to tears several times throughout her testimony. When Schlegel was first removed from the classroom, she says she was unaware of the present allegations. They were only revealed to her, she says, after she found a concerning note on her daughter's iPad. Now, court adjourned before the defense could finish their questioning of that witness, so that mother will be the first to take the stand first thing tomorrow morning. Reporting live in Annapolis, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Testimony continues in the trial of Matthew Schlegel, the former Severna Park Elementary School teacher accused of nearly 30 counts of child sex abuse. Now, we've heard from Schlegel's former students, and now the defense is trying to cast doubt over that testimony.
Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor has the details from Annapolis.
Questioning if the case is based on facts or financially motivated. Today, the defense challenging one mother's credibility, but that mother pushing back, calling the accusations disgusting.
Wondering why her third-grade math teacher suddenly stopped coming to school. Was he a doctor in disguise? A 9-year-old girl wrote on her iPad. Because he would always touch us, she said in court. We thought that maybe he was a doctor. Her mother telling the jury before finding the note she had no idea Matthew Schlegel had been accused of sexually assaulting another student, which was the reason for his removal from Severna Park Elementary last March. Since then, 8 girls coming forward, claiming Schlegel touched them inappropriately throughout the school day. Alleged abuse, investigators say, happened behind an L-shaped desk tucked in the corner of his classroom. But today, the defense attempting to paint a different picture, suggesting a group of misguided parents manipulated their children to conspire against Schlegel. Reading text messages from the mother discussing the possible payout of a civil lawsuit. The defense asking, you hired lawyers with the intention of making money off this case, did you not? You and the other parents are going to get rich. That's the goal, right? Disgusting, the mother replied. You're insane if you think that's why any parent would go through this. Our children were abused. Shifting through more text messages, the defense also accusing the mother of attempting to hire a private investigator to track down more alleged victims, despite authorities advising her to keep the matter confidential and leave the investigating to them. The defense arguing the allegations exploded only after the mother was involved. Through tears, the mother telling jurors her daughter is not the same child she was, describing her as withdrawn, afraid of going to school or being without her parents. She called the emotional toll indescribable, adding the payout she's seeking is justice.
Fox 45 has chosen not to share the mother's name to protect the identity of her child. So far, no civil lawsuits have been filed. Due to the upcoming holiday, the trial is expected to resume on Tuesday. Reporting in Annapolis, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
It was another emotional day in Anne Arundel County courtroom as the trial continues for a former Severna Park Elementary School teacher charged with sexually abusing his students.
Today, another child took the stand accusing her third-grade teacher of touching her inappropriately during the school day. As Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor reports, its testimony the defense argued should not have been allowed in court.
Yeah, over the last year, one accuser now says that what happened to her was actually much worse than she initially disclosed to investigators. Today, the defense arguing that that inconsistency undermines her credibility. But I also spoke with a victim's advocate who says that this is common in cases like this.
This afternoon, defense attorneys representing Matthew Schlegel not speaking to testimony they attempted to suppress in court.
Could you speak at all to why you feel like testimony, or part of her testimony shouldn't be allowed.
Yeah, we can't have any comment during the trial.
Last May, the former Severna Park Elementary School teacher arrested and his home searched after 8 third-grade students accused him of touching them inappropriately. Court documents claiming much of the alleged abuse occurred inside the classroom during the school day between August of 2022 and March of 2024. A year later, one child coming forward with new accusations, much more severe than she originally shared. Initially, the girl claiming Schlegel put her on his lap and caressed her inner thighs. Now she says he sexually assaulted her at least 20 times. The prosecution explaining when she was first interviewed, the girl was uncomfortable, misspeaking, and now has a better understanding of her body, while the defense calls it an unreliable disclosure, accusing the prosecution of influencing the child's recollection.
You want me to be polite? It's beyond outrageous.
Amos Giora, a University of Utah law professor and victims advocate who has no relation to this case, says it often takes time for survivors to come to terms with what happened to them due to the trauma they endured.
Do they have absolute recall 100%? No, and the expectation that they have total perfect recall is unreasonable.
Especially in cases involving children, he adds, it's common for them to lack the vocabulary to articulate the alleged offense.
Does she speak the way you do? No, she does not. But that doesn't mean it didn't happen to her.
Ultimately, a circuit court judge allowing the testimony, although it's too late to file new charges. During cross-examination, the child's memory put on trial for hours, the defense repeatedly asking her to clarify exactly how often the alleged abuse occurred. Was it every day, every other day, or a few times a week? A lot, she replied.
To instinctively dismiss it, to do this hand motion is A, wrong, B, it empowers the perpetrator, and it causes great harm to the victim, survivor.
During a short recess this afternoon, that young girl ran out of the courtroom in tears. She has now been on the stand for about 3 hours. Reporting in Annapolis, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
The state continues to make its case against a former Severna Park Elementary School teacher charged with sexually abusing his students. So far, 3 children have testified that they were touched inappropriately.
But as Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor reports, more are expected to take the stand soon.
Yeah, new court documents that I pull reveal detailed allegations from the 8 girls who have come forward, although 3 of them will not testify due to mental health concerns. Meanwhile, the defense remaining adamant none of it is true.
In an Annapolis courtroom, a mother reflecting on what she calls the hardest day of her life, telling jurors there's a few things that are the worst things that can happen to your child, and this is up there. While in 3rd grade, her daughter, one of 8 girls accusing their math teacher, Matthew Schlegel, of sexual abuse. Court documents detailing their initial reports to a forensic investigator, all sharing similar accounts. The girls claiming much of the alleged abuse occurred behind an L-shaped desk tucked in the corner of their Severna Park Elementary School classroom. Several claiming he would often rub their legs, inner thighs, chests, and backs, in addition to touching their genitals. 3 of the girls questioning if he was a doctor in disguise, quote, because he would always touch them where he was not supposed to. Calling the accusations flat-out lies. Throughout the trial, the defense questioning inconsistencies in the children's testimony. Refuting one instance, the defense arguing no field trip was ever taken to the Annapolis Maritime Museum, where one girl says Schlegel touched her. Did you ever check to see if she was telling you things that were accurate? The defense asked the girl's mother. I know she was telling me things that were accurate, she replied. Due to scheduling conflicts, the defense calling their first witness early, an expert in developmental psychology testifying on how children's memories are formed. The expert saying suggestive questioning can influence false memories that feel real, adding parents in particular tend to ask leading questions. According to the defense, the accusations were the result of rumors swirling after Schlegel's sudden disappearance from school, while the state argues the only thing these children were told to say is the truth.
Now, there was also debate over corroborating witnesses who say that they had seen young girls sitting on Schlegel's lap and that they had seen him rubbing their shoulders. The defense argued that that was impossible, saying that they checked those students' schedules and that they were in another classroom at the time of these alleged offenses. The state no longer plans on calling those witnesses for that reason, and they could rest their case by the end of this week. Reporting in Annapolis, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Well, the trial against a former Severna Park Elementary School teacher charged with sexually abusing his students continues into its now 4th week.
Today, the state's case nearing an end with emotional testimony from a mother who says her child was never the same after her 3rd grade year. Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor has the latest from Annapolis.
Yet today, yet another mother breaking down on the stand as she described the emotional trauma she says her daughter has endured following this alleged abuse. Meanwhile, the defense argues that that distress could be tied to a false allegation.
Panic attacks, separation anxiety, and stomach aches, triggered by the truth being brought to light or the spread of malicious misinformation. On Monday, tensions mounting inside an Annapolis courtroom as an 11-year-old's private journal entries were revealed in open court. Following her 3rd grade year, the once happy young girl reportedly anxious, withdrawn, and writing about ghosts haunting her. Through tears, her mom recalling she became spaced out, nervous, didn't want to go to school, and didn't want to leave my side. A sudden shift in demeanor coming shortly after the girl accused her former math teacher, Matthew Schlegel, of touching her inappropriately during the school day. He had like this pen. He would put it up my shorts, she told a jury. It happened multiple times. The defense noting the disclosure and emotional distress happened a full year after the alleged abuse occurred, questioning why she didn't report it or show signs of trauma sooner. The girl testifying, quote, "It felt unusual, but I thought you could trust your teacher. I thought he was trying to comfort me." She's one of 5 girls, all sharing similar stories, now entering the 4th week of gut-wrenching testimony, child after child, claiming much of the alleged abuse happened behind an L-shaped desk tucked in the corner of Schlegel's Severna Park Elementary School classroom. Meanwhile, the defense arguing no teacher would be able to hide that during the school day, adding pressure from parents led to a flurry of false accusations. An expert in developmental psychology testifying suggestive questioning can often manipulate a child's memory. So are the allegations rooted in facts or fiction? That's the question a jury will soon decide. Now, no more children are expected to testify, but the state does say that they have a few more witnesses left to call. They're expected to rest their case by Wednesday. Today, a judge warning both sides they need to speed this process along. A jury has been here for almost a month, and she's hopeful that they will be handed this case by the end of the week. In Annapolis, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Today, the wife of a former Severna Park Elementary School teacher accused of assaulting his students took the stand in her husband's defense.
Her emotional testimony coming nearly a month into the high-profile trial. Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor has the latest as the state rests and the defense starts to make its case. Well, every day that I've been here covering this trial for the last month, the defendant, Matthew Schlegel, has shown little to no emotion. He keeps his head down and he hardly moves. But all of that changed today as he looked up to face his wife. Schlegel crying along with her as she defended his innocence, describing him as a dedicated teacher, father, and husband, not a predator. Following hours of emotional testimony, Sarah Schlegel, an assistant principal at an Anne Arundel County public charter school, leaving the courthouse surrounded by supporters.
Mrs. Schlegel, can you say how you're feeling after your testimony?
All of whom declined to speak with us. Her husband, Matthew Schlegel, a former Severna Park Elementary School teacher, behind bars for just over a year, facing sexual assault allegations from 8 third-grade girls. Throughout the month-long trial, 5 of them testifying he'd touched them inappropriately during the school day, in some cases caressing their inner thighs and putting his hands or a pencil up their shorts. On the stand, Sarah breaking down in tears, recalling her husband's arrest last May. The couple's 2 young children there as armed SWAT teams swarmed the family's Severna Park home, taking her husband and searching for evidence. Computers, phones, and a hard drive collected. But Sarah says there was nothing to find, arguing they're the victims of vicious rumors and false allegations. Security cameras now cover every inch of the property. Sarah saying her family lives in fear following a string of harassment and threats, including alleged stalking, an explosion outside the home, the word pedo spray painted on their driveway, and flyers with her husband's picture reading, "There's a pedophile in your neighborhood. Warn your children." "My dad and I walked the neighborhood and pulled flyers out of all the mailboxes," she told the jury. "It felt like people were watching us." She also claims at no point did police or prosecutors reach out for her side of the story until today. As a fellow educator and school supervisor, the state pressing her on her husband's behavior. "So you think it's appropriate for a male third-grade math teacher to put his student on his lap?" the prosecution asked. "I think it's a gray area. No, it's not typical, but it's not an indication of a crime," she replied.
Also coming out in court today, in the midst of this trial, the family of one of the alleged victims has filed a civil lawsuit against Schlegel and Severna Park Elementary School's principal. According to Schlegel's attorney, they're seeking up to $10 million in damages. I did reach out to the family's attorneys as well, but they declined to comment. Reporting in Annapolis, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
In Annapolis, a month-long criminal trial has finally reached its final chapter, leaving Matthew Schlegel's fate in the hands of a jury. Schlegel is the Severna Park Elementary School teacher charged with sexually abusing several of his third-grade students. Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor's at the courthouse with the latest.
Was he a trusted teacher or a child abuser? Over the last 4 weeks, the jury has been told two very conflicting stories, and now it's time for them to decide who they believe. Following closing arguments, the attorneys representing Matthew Schlegel speaking with Fox 45 for the first time.
I mean, obviously, this is a very difficult time.
The severity of the allegations and complexities of the case making for a long month in court. But for the former Severna Park Elementary School teacher, the alleged victims, and the families involved, it's been an even longer year.
He's been away from his family. It's been traumatic, to say the least, and emotional. You can imagine that your family's been uprooted as a result of these charges, and we're certainly hopeful that the jury listened carefully to the evidence and will come back with an acquittal.
As the trial comes to a close, today both sides playing clips of forensic interviews of the 5 girls accusing their third-grade math teacher of touching them inappropriately. The state attempting to show a pattern. Each girl claiming when seeking one-on-one help with their schoolwork, the abuse would take place behind an L-shaped desk tucked in the corner of Schlegel's classroom. "Do you like him?" an investigator asked. "Yes, except for when he touches me," one girl replies. "I felt weirded out, but then I was like, well, he's a teacher, so I should probably trust him," said another. Meanwhile, the defense pointing out inconsistencies and questioning the credibility of their delayed disclosures. "There are simple details that they can't keep straight," they told jurors. "Every single child in this case is connected to another child. Out of 200 children, he only abused the ones that were friends." There were also no witnesses and no physical evidence of any abuse. Defense attorneys adding some of the claims were objectively false and could have been disproven if investigators had thoroughly examined classroom records, noting that in some instances, Schlegel and the alleged victims weren't even in the same room.
Child abuse happens. I said that in the courtroom. But it's important to trust but verify, and that's the step that got missed here. Is, the professionals should be able to distinguish between true and false allegations, and this case demonstrated it is such a mess, and again, they didn't do their job.
In a pivotal moment, prosecutors pushing back, questioning why multiple children would go through such a lengthy trial if their allegations weren't true. Now, Schlegel is facing more than a dozen criminal charges, and obviously there is a lot for the jury to consider and deliberate on here. As was expected, they were not able to come to a unanimous decision today, so they will be back on Monday, and so will we. In Annapolis, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Breaking developments in the trial against a former Severna Park Elementary School teacher charged with sexually assaulting several of his third-grade students. Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala.
And I'm Kai Jackson. Now, the jury is now going home for the evening without reaching a verdict, but in the last 15 minutes, there have been signs of some progress.
Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor has been in and out of court all day monitoring deliberations. Rebecca, what's the latest?
Well, Mary and Guy, when we last spoke at 4, I told you that the jury was deadlocked on 7 of Schlegel's 21 criminal charges. An hour later, that number is now down to just 4 charges that they're deadlocked on. So again, as you said, they are making progress as the judge continues to push them to come to a unanimous decision on all of the charges. How long do you think they'll be deliberating?
Yeah, it's impossible to say. I mean, I hope after 4 weeks, the message that we've conveyed is clear to them that they made mistakes in this case.
Following a full day and a half of deliberations, Matthew Schlegel's fate still hanging in the balance. The former Severna Park Elementary School teacher accused of sexually assaulting several of his 3rd grade students, 5 of them taking the stand in a month-long trial. All of the girls sharing similar stories. With emotional support dogs by their side, they told jurors the abuse would take place behind an L-shaped desk tucked in the corner of Schlegel's classroom. Several of their classmates also testifying the girls often received special treatment and spent a lot of time at Schlegel's desk and out of sight from the waist down. He would take a pencil and go up my shorts, said one girl. It felt unusual, but I thought you could trust your teacher, said another. Allegations the defense claims never happened.
Child abuse happens. I said that in the courtroom. But it's important to trust but verify, and that's the step that got missed here. Is, the professionals should be able to distinguish between true and false allegations, and this case demonstrated it is such a mess, and again, they didn't do their job.
The defense calling an expert in developmental psychology who testified suggestive questioning from parents can often manipulate a child's memory. Every single child was confronted by a parent, they said in closings. They were prompted. Defense attorneys adding some claims were objectively false and could have been disproven if investigators took the time to review classroom records, noting in some instances, Schlegel and the alleged victims weren't even in the same room.
Nobody did this intentionally or maliciously, but they didn't do their jobs, and as a result, everybody has suffered.
And now it's the jury's job to decide, was he a trusted teacher or a predator hiding in plain sight?
Now, between yesterday and today, the jury has been deliberating for about 11 hours now. They even worked through their lunch break today. The judge, not wanting them to make a rash decision, she dismissed them for the day and says that she wants them to come back and have a fresh start on deliberations. Tomorrow, we will, of course, be returning again with them. But for now, reporting live in Annapolis, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Our other breaking story tonight, former Severna Park Elementary School teacher Matthew Schlegel has been found not guilty on 18 counts related to child sex abuse after a month-long trial featuring emotional testimony from his former students.
The Anne Arundel County jury tells the judge that they're deadlocked on the 3 remaining second-degree assault charges. Now, we heard from both the defense and the families of some former students this afternoon.
Once we had an opportunity to see the state's case and the discovery, it was apparent to us that he was innocent, and the jury's confirmation of that today is really uplifting.
I wish that justice was served for her today. Unfortunately, it wasn't, but I hope in my heart that we at least have protected the girls after her.
Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor has been following this case from the start.
That's right. She takes us through the partial verdict and what lies ahead.
It's a little bit surreal.
A verdict like this is devastating.
It was a stunning turn in a month-long trial gripping Anne Arundel County. The courtroom erupting with emotion as a jury read out one not guilty verdict after another.
If I were in his position, I would still be saying, I can't believe that this just happened.
In the case against former Severna Park Elementary School teacher Matthew Schlegel, jurors acquitting him on 18 of 21 charges, remaining deadlocked on 3 counts of second-degree assault. Schlegel's supporters and attorneys breathing a sigh of relief.
It was apparent to us that he was innocent, and the jury's confirmation of that today is really uplifting for us.
While the families of his former 3rd grade students accusing him of sexual abuse sobbed in disbelief. Some parents even storming out of the courtroom.
Justice was not served today.
Visibly distressed, one mother and grandfather speaking out publicly for the first time.
I wish that justice was served for her today. Unfortunately, it wasn't, but I hope in my heart that we at least have protected the girls after her.
It's just the system's not fair.
Throughout the trial, prosecutors arguing Schlegel used the privacy of his corner desk to inappropriately touch young girls coming up for one-on-one help with their schoolwork, while the defense called out inconsistencies in the children's testimony, as well as a lack of witnesses and physical evidence, arguing parents prompted false reports from their children.
You know, we consulted experts on this case to look at the psychology of everything, and they told us that these things can happen.
Despite the fact that these allegations were brought, they were not abused, and the jury didn't believe they were abused.
But the state sees it differently, saying the legal system demands too much of young victims.
These are difficult and challenging cases. These children were on the stand and cross-examined for hours. And I can promise you, we will never shy away from difficult cases like this. We believe victims, and we believe children.
Now, because this is a partial verdict, a lot still remains up in the air. The state says that they still need to consult with the alleged victims' families in this case and decide whether or not they want to proceed and move forward with retrying those 3 remaining charges. Meanwhile, tomorrow the judge will be holding a bail review hearing for Schlegel, where he is expected to be released.
He has not been able to hug his children, have any contact with them in 13 months. This has been a travesty on so many levels, and we're hopeful that the court will release him tomorrow.
But no matter the outcome, both sides say their lives will never be the same.
How does he get anything back? Frankly, his life, his reputation, his picture's been put on the media.
Rebecca Pryor.
How do you ever recover from that?
Fox 45 News.
Attorney Kurt Nachman, who is not affiliated with the case, joined us on Fox 45 News at 4 o'clock today. He says the trial will have a lasting impact on both sides, regardless of what happens from here.
When someone lodges accusations, whether they're true or not, against somebody like Matthew Schlegel, it's going to inevitably ruin his life forever. No matter what you do, every time you put your name into a search browser, this is going to be the first thing that comes up. The family, the state's attorney's office needs to sort of deeply evaluate whether or not they do want to put the kids through another trial and whether or not they should put the kids through another trial. And certainly that should be sort of first and foremost in their mind.
After spending more than a year behind bars, Severna Park Elementary School teacher Matthew Schlegel will walk free. Today, an Anne Arundel County judge ordering his immediate release following a partial verdict in his high-profile child sex abuse trial.
Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor shares the flood of outrage from parents and protesters and the next steps in the case that's not over yet.
Outside of Anne Arundel County Circuit Court,
a shock and disbelief.
A sea of pink, the color widely used to show support for survivors of sexual assault. It covers a crowd of parents and community members protesting the outcome of a month-long child sex abuse trial.
Our kids go to Severna Park Elementary School, and we are outraged, and we will not leave.
Following 3 days of deliberations, a jury finding Matthew Schlegel, a third-grade math teacher, not guilty on 18 of 21 charges, remaining deadlocked on 3 misdemeanor counts of second-degree assault. Citing a lack of criminal history today, a judge releasing Schlegel on 2 conditions. No contact with any of his accusers or their families, and no unsupervised contact with any minors other than his own 2 children. That prevents him from returning to the classroom, but not from collecting a paycheck. In a statement, Anne Arundel County Public Schools saying Schlegel is now suspended with pay while they conduct an internal investigation.
Now our focus is on how do we keep these girls safe? How do we keep our school system safe?
We need every educator to believe them and protect them. There's nothing else that's more important than that. So for someone like this to walk free in our community is unacceptable.
Following the decision, Schlegel and his family escorted out a back entrance, but his attorneys swarmed on the way to their cars.
We believe the girl. We believe the girl. Thank you.
Inside the courtroom, the defense arguing for all charges to be dropped, while the state says it's too soon to say if they'll retry him.
And that means this lengthy legal battle is still not over. On July 1st, Schlegel will return to the court for yet another hearing to determine how his remaining 3 charges will be handled.
We're not going to stop. None of the moms are going to stop standing up for their children.
Schlegel's defense stressing, despite his release, his life will never be the same.
His life, his reputation, his picture's been put on the media. How do you ever recover from that?
While parents, prosecutors, and protesters argue the verdict doesn't mean the abuse didn't happen.
The system failed us.
Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
A controversial verdict sparked strong reaction across Anne Arundel County. This week, former Severna Park Elementary School teacher Matthew Schlegel was found not guilty of sexually assaulting several of his former third-grade students. In a story you're seeing only on Fox 45, Rebecca Pryor spoke with a member of the jury about what swayed their decision.
Well, this juror, who asked not to be named for privacy reasons, says this decision did not come easy. These 12 jurors, they were going back and forth for 19 hours in the jury room, but I'm told ultimately it all came down to a lack of evidence.
The very first thing that all of us said was, no matter what we do, this isn't going to go good for somebody.
In a case that divided the community and a jury.
We put a lot into it. We turned our jury room pretty much into a war room.
One juror now opening up about the 3 days of intense deliberations held behind closed doors.
We had papers all over the wall, facts of the case, of reasonable doubt, of the charges of each victim. You know, it was completely gone through with a fine-tooth comb.
Following a month-long trial, Severna Park Elementary School teacher Matthew Schlegel found not guilty on 18 of 21 charges, alleging between 2022 and 2024 he sexually abused 5 of his third-grade students. The jury remaining deadlocked on 3 misdemeanor counts of second-degree assault.
It's not that they weren't believed. I believe that they believed that this happened to them. I believe that they think that they were touched. I just don't know if it was inappropriately touched.
This juror saying initially the panel was split in half, but in the end, there were only 2 holdouts.
The only thing that you could get out of them was we just believe that he was touched, that he touched them, or he did something. And that's where we got stuck.
On the stand, each girl testified. Schlegel used the privacy of his corner desk to sexually assault them during the school day. He would take a pencil and go up my shorts, said one girl. It felt unusual, but I thought you could trust your teacher, said another. But the juror says the burden to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt fell heavy on the state's shoulders, citing a lack of witnesses, physical proof of abuse, and what they call a shoddy investigation.
From what was shown to us, the police involvement was only for the initial report. After that, the victims were sent for forensic interviews, and that was the only thing that we were shown as far as evidence that was investigated, and it wasn't even investigated.
They also point to inconsistent testimony and perceived pressure from parents who continued to discuss the case after police told them not to.
There was one of the victims who said that she was behind his desk every day and all of her friends would be at the desk with her. Then it was, oh no, we weren't behind the desk. We were on the outside of the desk. Nobody's allowed behind his desk. It's things like that. There was one parent that was involved in every aspect of this, from the disclosures to informing other parents to informing teachers. It felt like a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a witch hunt almost. And the fact that he was a teacher for 17 years and there's no one else that came forward during that 17 years. These kids were all so close together. They were pretty much best friends at some point, or friends.
The verdict sparking strong reactions on both sides.
We believe the girls!
On the day of Schlegel's release, dozens of Severna Park parents creating a sea of pink outside the courthouse, holding signs reading, "We believe them."
I'm 100% comfortable in my decision of this. There's not one part of me that's just like, oh, maybe I didn't do the right thing. I feel like I did the right thing in this case.
What gives you that confidence?
The evidence that was presented to us. I truly feel that this can happen to anyone. Anyone's life can be destroyed over someone making an accusation. But there has to be facts and evidence behind those accusations to do that. The state did not prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt.
Now, as for those 3 remaining charges, the defense is pushing for them to be dismissed, while the state says that they are still deciding whether or not they want to retry them. In about 2 weeks, everyone will be back in court, and a judge will have the final say. Reporting in Baltimore City, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Anyone's life can be destroyed over someone making an accusation. but there has to be facts and evidence behind those accusations.
After a month of emotional testimony and some heated arguments, a jury found a former Severna Park Elementary School teacher, Matthew Schlegel, not guilty on 18 counts of child sex abuse.
But 3 other charges against Schlegel remain unresolved. Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor looks into what comes next.
That's right. After more than a year behind bars, Schlegel has been released following the jury's decision, but that doesn't mean his case is closed.
I think every person that was involved in this case is a victim. But I think Schlegel's life, he'll never be able to recover from this.
Speaking exclusively with Fox 45, a juror who asked not to be named, revealing the details behind their controversial decision.
We believe the girls!
Leading to Matthew Schlegel's release.
So 10 of us believe there was nothing. 2 believe there was some sort of touching.
The Severna Park Elementary School teacher found not guilty on 18 of 21 charges, alleging between 2022 and 2024 he sexually abused 5 of his 3rd grade students. But 3 counts of second-degree assault remain in legal limbo, with the jury remaining deadlocked following 3 days of intense deliberations.
We turned our jury room pretty much into a war room. I don't think we would have came to a unanimous decision on all of them. I think more time would have just been really bad.
According to legal experts, the state now faces a critical decision.
The state needs to really decide whether or not the proverbial juice is worth the squeeze. In other words, whether or not they think that, their case is strong enough to be retried, whether or not it will create more problems than it's worth, whether or not, frankly, the victims even want to continue moving this case forward.
At least one parent whose child was involved has publicly called for the case to be retried. But so far, the state is still weighing their options, although the decision might not be entirely up to them.
Typically what happens is after you take that partial verdict, the judge will then send the jury back to deliberate on the remaining 3 counts. Now, what I understand happened in this instance is the jury was dismissed without going back to deliberate over the defense's objection.
Attorney Kurt Nachman, who works at the same law firm as the defense but has no ties to this case, says the judge dismissed the jury before officially declaring a mistrial, which the defense argues could be grounds for dismissing the remaining charges.
There may have been a procedural error here.
To determine a path forward, another hearing has been set for July 1st, where Schlegel's fate will once again hang in the balance.
Now, there were also 3 additional students who were taken off this case just before trial began over concerns for their mental health and well-being. But Nachman says that double jeopardy might apply here. He also says that it might infringe on the defendant's right to a fair and speedy trial, potentially preventing them from bringing new charges as well. In Baltimore, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.